So here it depends on the organism. For example, in the case of lower organism, mostly haploid type is present. But in the case of bryophytes and pteridophytes, depending upon the thing, for example, in bryophytes, haplodiplontic, here the gametophytic phase will be dominant in the case of bryophytes. But in the case of pteridophytes, here the sporophytic phase will be dominant. But the diplontic type is present in gymnosperms and angiosperms. Gymnosperms and angiosperms. So are you clear? So depending upon the haploid or the diploid phase, we are calling it as haplontic type, diplontic type, or haplodiplontic type. So all the types of plant that has two phases. One is the diploid sporophytic and haploid gametophytic. They alternate with each other. So these are about the plant kingdom. That is, under plant kingdom, we saw about the different type, that is algae, and then bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, and angiosperms. So under that, what are the characteristic features of each of these algae, and what way bryophytes differ from algae, and then how the pteridophytes differ from algae and bryophytes, and what are the significant features of gymnosperms and angiosperms. So in the plant kingdom chapter, we'll see in detail about all these, again, in detail about the reproduction and what are the main uses of all these type of plants. So the next kingdom is Animalia. So in the Animalia, what is the feature that differentiate from kingdom Plantae to Animalia? So here also they are multicellular, heterotrophic. There it is autotrophic. Here it is heterotrophic, that is dependent on the plants for their food, and they are also eukaryotic organisms, but here they have no cell wall. So the plants have cell wall. So they directly or indirectly depend on plants for food. So all the animals are dependent on plants for food. And based on this, there are several classifications like herbivores, based on the type of food. Herbivores are carnivore, omnivore. There are different types of animals. So they digest the food in an internal cavity and store food resources, glycogen or fat. So here we are seeing the development from a unicellular to a multicellular organism. So when they evolve to a multicellular organism, there occurs a gradual increase in the intake of food, and there is a gradual development of the internal cavity and the alimentary canal, and the form of the storage reserve also, it gets increased as the organism develops. So they digest their food in an internal cavity and they store food resources, glycogen or fat. And then mode of nutrition in the case of animals is holozoic, that is the ingestion of food in the case of animals. Then they have the definite growth pattern and they grow into adults that have a definite shape and size. So how they are getting the definite shape and size? As a result of the well-developed, they have the well-developed muscular and skeletal system. And skeletal system. And higher forms, they show sensory and neuromotor mechanisms, and also they have the well-coordinated nervous system and endocrine system. So different animals, they have the different features. And most of the animals, so they are capable of locomotion, and the sexual reproduction is by copulation of male and female, followed by embryological development. So there occurs an embryological development. And also there occurs a well-developed circulatory system. So in the case of animal kingdom, depending upon the all these factors, so there are different types of that is classifying the animal, different phylums that comes under the kingdom Animalia.